I believe that you're going to be glad that you've come, and I'm delighted to see you. I knew that some of you were coming tonight, and I told Charles today. I said, Charles, there's a lot of work to be done in that room. I'm telling you, baby. I said they're really not where I am, and just. But we are delighted to have Charles and Penny with us, and I know that you enjoyed him this morning, and it is extremely crucial about relationships. I want to mention something to you. Next Sunday night, we are beginning a class, a video class that we'll be facilitating. That Charles is doing a class for the next several weeks. So. If you can, after tonight, I would encourage you to be a part of that class. I would also encourage you, because I'm going to tell you, I've had so many of you tell me today, I wish so-and-so could be here. I wish that I invited somebody else and they couldn't come tonight. That is an opportunity for you to use that as a tool, and you are without excuse. We're giving you that opportunity as a part of our discipleship series for the spring. So we hope that you will take advantage of that. Glad you're here tonight. We're going to have a great time together, and it's going to be a wonderful time as we share in the Lord together. Let's begin with a word of prayer. Father, we know, as Charles shared with us this morning, it is not good for us to be alone. There are a lot of things that we need, but we need community. We need the body of Christ. We need to be serving with one another. We need to grow in the relationships with our wives, with our children, with our families. And Lord, I pray for Charles as he comes to speak to us tonight. I pray, dear Lord, that you would lead and guide and direct him in this time. That, Lord, we may be open to hear what we need to hear, and that we will act upon that. So direct us tonight. Use this time in a powerful way. Thank you for all these that have come. Thank you for so many here who care about their relationships. Lord, remind us even tonight that not everybody is where we are, and that we will be able to use this as a tool in the days to come, not only in our lives, but in the lives of others as well. So bless our time together. In Jesus' name, amen. Welcome Charles as he comes.
Thank you, and thank you, Michael. It's always good to be with him. We see each other about once or twice a year at various functions, and so we've kept in contact, been a good friend over these years, and it's so great for Penny and I to see so many people that when we started ministry, we didn't have a clue what we were doing, and did children's church, and it was a great time of our lives. So we thank you for that background. Matter of fact, some of the stories in Comic Belief are right out of this church. Now, we didn't name names, you understand, because I don't have a good attorney. But other than that, it was so we thank you so much for the opportunity to be back here. I'm going to talk to you tonight about relationships, and I want to encourage you to just think about maybe changing one specific thing in the way you deal with people. I've discovered over the years it's usually one thing that you do, and you keep doing it over and over again. It becomes a habit pattern. So let me see if I can give you some visuals to help to understand it. Let's just say we're going to have a cookout, maybe grill some steaks, maybe watch a game or something, and everybody's in a good mood, everybody's laughing, and a friend of ours comes in. Let's just call him Bill. We wave at Bill, Bill waves at us, and then Bill puts his hand on the grill and burns himself severely. And we go, wow, did you see Bill? I mean, why did he do that? They have to take him to the hospital. You call, man, they had to bandage him up, salve him up. It's a pretty good burn. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, you check on him, and he's a lot better. So about 6 weeks, he's all healed. So we're going to have another cookout, maybe watch a game or something. Everybody's in a good mood. Everybody's laughing. The grill's getting good and hot. And Bill walks in. I mean, you kind of feel it tense up. He's by the grill. I mean, you say, what do you do? Get away from the grill, Bill. I mean, what do you do in that situation? Well, remember, we're Christians, so we'd rather look good than tell the truth, right? And so we don't say anything, do we? We just kind of look at each other, and then Bill puts his hand on the grill again and burns himself severely. Now, you and I just standing around talking, it may go something like this. That Bill. he's a nice guy, isn't he? I mean, my kids and his kids, I see him they're on the same soccer team. I see him every Saturday. And, you know, Bill, he seems pretty normal in just about every area of his life. But when it comes to grills, that Bill's nuts, isn't he? He just nuts. You see what he did? He's nuts. Well, let me tell you about your life. Most of you pretty normal in just about every area. But I guarantee you, there's one area. If we could look at it really close, we'd say, that's nuts. I mean, why do you do that or say that or get defensive about that or get angry about that or eat that? We don't have time to do individual therapy. You understand that, right? You got to fill in your own blanks, all right? You know, but I guarantee you there's one thing that burns you over and over again. I know all the old psychiatrist jokes. Remember the old psychiatrist jokes where he goes to see the psychiatrist? He's got 2 burned ears. Psychiatrist said, man, what happened to you? He said, I was ironing, the phone rang, picked up the iron. He said, yeah, but both your ears are burned. He said, they call back. Now, that's what your habits do. You say you're not going to say it or eat it or get defensive about it or get mad about it, but then you do it, you see. Your habits call you back. It's like the pastor in the neighborhood. He wanted to kind of make friends with a neighborhood kid, so he bought a used lawnmower from a neighborhood kid. And he just paid like $45, so he got a good deal, but he couldn't get it to start. I mean, he just couldn't get it to start. And the pastor was getting a little frustrated. He could not get that thing to start. And the next week he runs in a little boy. You sold me a lawnmower that will not start. I can't believe you did that. You sold me, it won't start. He said, it will start, Pastor. No, it will. Yes, Pastor, it doesn't. Pastor, look, I didn't want to tell you. You're the pastor, and I didn't want to tell you this, but I sold it to you, so I guess I ought to tell you. I don't want to, but it's just this lawnmower. It's always been this way. I don't know why, but it's the way it is. This lawnmower does not start unless you cuss. I mean, that's just the way it's always been. I didn't want to tell you because you're the pastor. I just didn't want to tell you. He said, young man, I am the pastor, and I do not cuss. Matter of fact, it's been so long since I cussed, I don't even remember how. He said, pull it about 3 or 4 more times, it'll all come back. Now, that's the way it is with your habits. You say you're not going to do it or say it or whatever, and then your mate pulls on you, or your grandkids pull on you, or your regular kids pull on you, or the boss pulls on you, and it all comes back. And you end up not being the person that God created you to be. You see, marriage, the church, the institutions that God set up, it's so you can learn to control what I call your Adam suit. You see, we all come from the Adams family. Remember Uncle Adam? And so you have this Adam suit. And this Adam suit does not want to act better, it wants to feel better. It does not want education, it wants medication. It does not want a plan, it wants a pill. And the more you can redeem this Adam suit, the better life you're going to have down here. The more you can get to do it what it does not want to do. I told you today I'm a Cowboy fan. We had a coach one time named Tom Landry. Here's what he said a coach's job is: to make guys do what they do not want to do in order to accomplish what they've dreamed of doing all their lives. And that's what it is a parent. That's what it is with a pastor. That's what it is with you. You have to get your Adam suit, your body, to do what it does not want to do. It wants to be selfish. It wants what it wants, and it wants it right now. And the more you can learn to control that Adam suit, the better off you're going to be down here. Now, don't get that confused with grace, because you'll never redeem your Adam suit. You'll never get it right totally. That's why Jesus had to come to live that life you couldn't live. So it has nothing to do with that. Don't go around judging people's Adam suits. That's what a lot of Christians do. God's got to kill it to get you into heaven anyway, okay? Excuse me. I hate to tell you this, but life's pretty much a sexually transmitted disease that eventually kills you, okay? That's the way it is. And so, but the more you can redeem it, the better off you are, okay? So we're going to talk about that tonight, because marriage, the institutions God set up, are ways to help control your Adam suit. See, There's not going to be any marriage in heaven. You won't need it then. Ought to control your Adam suit, especially with men, because men, they a little more visual, and they needed, well, it didn't take 3 chapters that God said, you got to have a naked woman. I mean, that's the only way it's going to work. And so, so we got to figure out how do we control that, And so he said, well, we better do marriage. That's the way to do that. And so what we're going to talk about is learning how to control that, because the more success you have with that in any area of life, not just talking about relationship, but in any area of life. Because not only does the Adam suit have to be redeemed, the problem is we live in a world that's a Ponzi scheme. And the Ponzi scheme of the world is always saying you can have this without that. You see, you can have pleasure without consequences. You can have rewards without risk. When I was in Dallas, first went there to start the counseling center for Dr. Crizzle. Actually, I left here to go to Dallas to do that. These guys would call me, and they'd be all stressed out. I'm all stressed out. I said, you stressed out? Yeah, I got to see a psychologist. I said, you got to see a psychologist? Why? Because I'm stressed out. I said, why are you so stressed out? He said, the traffic stressing me out. I said, traffic stressing you out? Got to see a psychologist? Let me ask you a couple of questions. Maybe you won't have to come in. When you moved to Dallas, did you know people lived here? Well, yeah. Well, did you know they drove cars to work? I said, let's back up. Why did you move to Dallas? He said, because I got a great job. I am making more money than I've ever made. I live in the nicest house I've ever lived in. The whole community's new. The schools are new. And there's all kind of things to do on the weekend. I said, well, that's why everybody else moved here too. I said, here's what you do. You won't have to come in and talk about trade. You won't have to come in if you do this. You need to move to Muleshoe, Texas. Muleshoe, where's that? Oh, it's out in West Texas where God got real tired. It's way out there. It's so far out there, the rainbows are in black and white. I mean, it's way out there. Well, I don't have a job in Muleshoe. No, and you won't find one either probably. And the houses, they aren't much, and there's nothing to do on the weekend. But guess what? No traffic. And they'll say, well, I don't want to move to Muleshoe. I want to stay in Dallas. I said, well, then you better come in, because you do not get Dallas without traffic. You don't get this without that. And that would be the easy. I wouldn't have to go around the country telling people how to live if that's the way it worked. The problem is there's a little bit of complexity to that, because you can have this without that, but only for a short period of time. And unfortunately, by the time that shows up, you're usually addicted to the this, you see. See, if if things happened immediately, I wouldn't have to go around the country telling people how to live. If it happened immediately, they'd figure it out. Penny and I were in Mobile, Alabama. I was supposed to speak that next day, and we just checked in the hotel, just getting dark outside. And I was about to close the curtain when the hot light on the Krispy Kreme came on. Like a sign from God, like boom, sign from God. So I told Penny, look, boom, sign from God. Let's get some exercise and walk down to the Krispy Kreme. Now I'm going to teach you a word, and the word is rationalize. It means rational lies. It's lies that you tell yourself. And by the way, the most important conversation is the one you talk to yourself, And by the way, the world is a Ponzi scheme. The world says stuff like, follow your heart, all right? You can't follow I weighed 400 pounds if I followed my heart. You can't follow your heart. You lead your heart, you see. You lead your heart. Krispy Kreme, rational lie. Let's get some exercise, walk down the Krispy Kreme, because I just want some Krispy Kreme so I can convince myself of anything, get some exercise. And then when we get down there, guess what? They're cheaper by the dozen. We have to buy 12 to save money. And that's when I realized I could eat 8 Krispy Kreme donuts by myself. I mean, they're just hot fried sugar. I mean, they melt in your mouth. And guess what? No consequences. Didn't have to change my coat size. Didn't have to get in the pants. Just pure pleasure. Just pure pleasure. No immediate consequences. Unfortunately, if you do that regularly, you may get on a scale. It may say 1 at a time, please. Because you're going to get big, right? Now, What if things happened immediately? What if they happened immediately? What if you took a bite of Krispy Kreme and fat went bloop, you'd go, good night. Did you see that fat jump out of that donut? That's a powerful donut. I'm not getting close to that. You see, the problem is at first you have it, then it has you. See, matter of fact, there's a verse in Proverbs, about a very pretty verse, like a dog returns to its vomit. See, there's some habits, there's some things you do that you know you don't even want to do them, but you do them anyway. See, and it is kind of like a dog. You ever been to somebody's house where the dog controls the house? I mean, you're on the porch and it's licking you and getting on your leg and you're trying to ring the doorbell and get away from this dog. And they come and you think you're getting away from the dog and the dog goes with you in the house, you know. And you know, you're trying to eat and the dog's trying to get you food. You're trying to keep the dog down and eat your food at the same time. And then they always say this, is the dog bothering you? I want to say, is this a CNI dog? Because evidently you're totally blind, you know. Yes, the dog is bothering me, you see. And see, that's what happens. By the time in those situations, you can't control that because you've gotten addicted to it. And you do that in relationships, you do that in all kinds of things. Now, we're not going to talk about habits anymore. I just want to tell you, give you a framework of how your body works and how your mind thinks. But we got to talk about relationships but the good news is, because you're showing the video series, that series has been shown to over 1,500 churches, you will get like how to listen and the kind of things that I'm supposed to get to tonight that I probably won't get to. You'll have those on video. You can go, so you have to sign up for the course. That's good. See, we did them. Okay. Remember the Bible says, we don't need to be alone. We need to be around other people. But that's when it gets complex. So how does that all work? Well, the problem is, remember, it goes from wonderful to war. Why is that? Well, in relationships, you grew up in a family that you think that's the way you're supposed to do things, you see. For example, in my family, my mother took out the trash. In Penny's family, her father took out the trash. We got married, nobody took out the trash. I thought women did that. She thought men did that. Now I know men do that. It actually takes two to take out the trash. The wife to remember it and the man to do it, right? So we got personality differences. We do a marriage seminar where we use the Myers-Briggs personality test so people can start to understand their personality, because it gets very complex about dealing with different personalities in relationships. But then we have male-female differences. So let me just camp out on that a little bit because it's fun. I'm going to teach you the difference between a man and a woman. This is a woman, and this is a man. You see, women are complex. Men are simple. You see, you come to my house, you'll find lots of towels. We got towels that match other towels. We got towels that match the floor. We got towels we use. We got towels we don't use. We got decorative towels. Nobody uses those towels. We got guest towels. People we don't know, they use those towels. We got lots of towels. What if I live by myself? 2 towels. One wet, one dry. Alternate 6 weeks, throw them out, buy me 2 more towels. But it wasn't good for a man to be alone. He needed more towels. Men are simple. I go to bed, 1 head, 1 bed, 1 pillow. Women are complex. We have 11 pillows on our bed. I take 6 off every night. I put 6 back on every morning. Why? I don't have a clue why. Because it wasn't good for man to be alone. He needed more pillows. We bought a house with brand new wallpaper. Penny looked at that brand new wallpaper and said, it's got to go. I said, it's new wallpaper. She said, it's not me. I said, it's not me either. It's wallpaper. Wasn't good for a man to be alone. He needed more wallpaper. You see, there have been differences documented from a very early age. Boys grow up not cooperating, competing. King of the hill, capture the flag, put a helmet on and seriously injure the other guy. That's how we grew up. You see, Women sometimes don't understand that. I remember the first vacation we went on, and Penny said, "Can we stop at the rest area?" I said, "Not till I pass that Chevrolet." What Chevrolet? Chevrolet passed me 30 miles back. I've been trying to catch ever since. That Chevrolet. See, that's how we grew up, competing. Your husband thinks you're competing against him. You've got to find out. You say, "What happened at work?" He gets all defensive because somehow you're going to take that and use it against him later somehow. You see, that's how we grew up. And men have a very tough time communicating. See, women, it's been documented at 4 years of age, little girls, 4 years of age, 100% of what little girls say is totally intelligible. Already talking, communicating, sharing, holding hands, saying things, "Let's braid hair, go over to your house and talk." Okay? Boys don't do that. Well, if they said that, you wouldn't go. They compete, and they don't communicate. 40% of what 4-year-old boys say is totally unintelligible. It sounds, grunts, groans. You don't believe it? Go over and watch some 4-year-old boys right now. It'll be boom, 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 boom. Just a bunch of sounds. By the way, men never outgrow their need to make their sounds. That's just part of it. That's just part of it. We just do that. So what we have to understand is there's differences. But what we want to teach you tonight is the difference is the dynamic. You can become, and by the way, this isn't the only purse you have, is it? Yeah. My wife has lots of purses. How many wives have lots of purses here? Okay, yeah. How many wallets does a man have? One. Matter of fact, women have to tell men when they need a new wallet. You ever notice that? It's Christmas, you getting a new wallet. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. I like this wallet. That wallet stinks. You've had it so long, you're getting a new wallet. Get this, thank you so much. You get that in a minute. So how do we make the difference, the dynamic? Well, let me give you some help tonight. That chapter in 1 Peter chapter 3, let's talk to the women first. 1 Peter chapter 3, it starts off likewise. Matter of fact, in verse 8, talking to men, it also says likewise. So chapter 3, when it's talking to men or women, it says likewise. Whenever you see likewise in the Bible, you say likewise what? So you look up into chapter 2, and in chapter 2, it's talking about Jesus. And it uses the same phraseology it uses in chapter 3. Because it says Jesus, when they did evil against him, he didn't do evil back. When they reviled against him, he didn't revile back. He turned them over to him who judges righteously. Jesus is saying that people are not your problem. You see, you turn them over to God. See, worship, remember, is focusing on God and not on people. What happens is, if you change your focus, your feelings change. And your Adam suit wants to focus on what's wrong. It happens at a very early age. My daughter Brianne was actually born here in Spartanburg. I was going to teach her how to ride the bicycle. So I took her to Wet and Wild Water Park the fall of the year, not a car in the parking lot. I said, "Brianne, you're going to be a bike rider." She was excited. I was excited. I got that bike out. Look at all that asphalt. I had to learn how to sand and rocks. You're going to go on asphalt. You're going to feel the wind against your face. You're going to be a bike rider. She was excited. I was excited. Look at all that asphalt. I said, "Daddy, what's that way down there?" I said, "Don't worry about that. Look at this asphalt. You're going to be, Daddy, that's a pole. Oh, don't worry about that. You're going to go fast on this asphalt." "Daddy, what if I hit the pole?" "You're not going to hit the pole, Brian. Look at all this asphalt. If I hit the pole, it's going to hurt." "It's not going to hurt because you're not going to hit the pole. Now get on a bicycle." You know, I teach a kid how to ride a bike. Don't you run like crazy, feel the wind against your face. You're a bike rider. What if I hit that pole? "You're not going to hit the pole. Go." And she headed straight for the pole. "Daddy, I'm headed for the pole." I said, "Turn it to the right. Look at all that asphalt. Just turn it to the right." "Daddy, I can't turn it to the right. I'm headed for the pole." "Turn it to the left. Look at it. Turn it to the left." She mutilated that pole. By the time I got there, lips stuck out, tears in her eyes. "I told you I was going to hit the pole." I said, "I know, Brianne, because you focused on the pole." Let me tell you about your number one problem in relationships. You're pole hitters. You focus not on God's faithfulness. You focus on other people's faults. You focus not on God's promises, but on other people's performance, you see. Because the brain can only think one thought at a time. And that's why the Bible constantly talks about renewing your mind. If you don't, your body naturally, your Adam suit, focuses on the poles. So you become a pole hitter. I promise you, there's a group of people in this church, great church here, but there are some pole hitters here. They come to talk about the poles. Here a pole, there a pole, everywhere a pole. It's too loud, it's too quiet, it's too hot, it's too cold. Flag day, flag wasn't big enough. Prayer day, prayer wasn't long enough. Just pole hitters, I speak to businesses. They're pole hitters. And the world, remember, the world's a Ponzi scheme, so there's something wrong with everything. Until God creates a new heaven or new earth, it's easy. I mean, you'll find a pole in every situation. It's easy to do that. Pole hitters. You know that. Just go out in the world. The lane you're in slows down. The reason it slows down is because you're in it, right? You switch lanes, you just slow down the other lane, right? The barcode never works on the most embarrassing item. I know that one. I raised 3 girls, My wife would hand me that grocery list. I said, I'm not buying that. She said, you buying that? You the daddy. I'm not buying. Yes, you are. You the daddy. You buying that. I'm the daddy. I'm buying that. But I want to sneak through. Nobody looking. Price check. They wave it. I'm saying, put it down. I'll pay anything. Get me out of here. And it's always been that way, and it always will be that way. Until God creates a new heaven and a new earth, there's going to be something wrong with everything down here. And if you start to focus on it, you're going to be a miserable person. I promise you. Remember the first church relocation committee? They had a chance to go to the promised land. How good is that? The promised land. But 2 came back with what? Grapes? 10 came back with what? Gripes. Not going to the promised land. Poles. Big poles. Giants. We're not going. 2 came back with grapes. Look how big these grapes are. What God said is true. It's a promised land. Look, this is wonderful. Oh, that's proof, all right. Only big giants could grow big grapes like that. We're not going. And it still blows me away that the people of God who had a chance to live their life in the promised land ended up living their life in pitiful land, griping and complaining. I hope it's not the same majority today. Excuse me. I may need some water, honey. But it could be. Because a lot of Christians, they focus on the wrong thing, and they're miserable people, and they don't live in the promised land. They live in pitiful land. You might have heard about Grandma and Grandpa. They took their grandkids on vacation. They turned on and by the way, I'm a papa now. I don't know why women got to pick the names. Who decided that? But anyway, Penny got to pick, so she picked Mimi. What am I going to be? PP? I don't think so. So it doesn't rhyme, but I don't care. I'm Papa. Okay. They're taking their grandkids on vacation, and they saw a big sign, Natural Park. They thought, that'd be good for the grandkids, nature trails, things like that. And they pull in and realize this really is a natural park. Let's be politically correct. Clothing optional lifestyle. Okay. Some of you may know it as a nudist camp. This is South Carolina, so you bubbas, I'm talking naked people. All right. They can't get the car turned around. Here comes 4 people. Thank you, man. Here comes 4 people dressed as jaybirds coming right at them. They're trying to put their hands up so the kids can't see, but kids, look at Papa, look at those people, looking at them, look at them, look at them. Look at those people. They look at them. They don't have their safety helmets on. Now, how could they focus on that? I'll tell you how. They've been taught all their life to focus on that. You see, the Bible says this: every word you speak should be a positive word. The Bible says it this way: a word of edification, a good word. Matter of fact, it says your focus should be on things that are praiseworthy. That means you talk good and you focus on the good. Why? Because if you can see the God in the situation, eventually there will be good in the situation. You see, if he can take the cross is the biggest plus sign in your life, my friend. If he can take the cross and take the worst thing that anybody could do to somebody and make it the best thing for everybody, that means he can take whatever people do to you, and in the long term, he can use it for you. And once you understand that, that starts to give power in your life to be that person that God wants you to be. But it's all about focus. Some of you, that specific thing tonight would be, I'm going to stop focusing on the faults of the people in my life. I'm going to focus on the faithfulness of God. I'm going to quit focusing on their performance and how it doesn't measure up, but I'm going to focus on the promise of God. Because if you read that text in 1 Peter chapter 3, it says that if you want to love your life and see good days, I've never met anybody who didn't want to love their life and see good days. God said that's dependent on you blessing people. Matter of fact, verse 12 of that chapter, verse 7 says, guys, your prayers will be hindered if you don't treat your wife right. Your prayers will be hindered. But verse 12 says just the opposite, that God's ears will be open to your prayers. How would you like to have a life where you love your life and you see good days and God's ear is waiting to answer your prayer? The Bible says it will be contingent on how you treat people, primarily the people in your family. So specifically, we're going to teach you some things tonight of how to do that. First, with the women, it says likewise. In other words, because this is the way Jesus does it, this is the way you will do it. And then it says you will win a man over without a word. Now, why would it say it that way? Because women, remember I've already taught you, are better communicators than men. They talk better. And ladies, when you tell your husband, let's talk, that's kind of right up there with leprosy and root canals, all right? A man thinks the relationship is going great if we don't have to talk, you see. And a woman thinks it's going great if we do talk, see. So it says you'll win a man over without a word. Now, why does it say that? Because God knew your tendency would be to try to talk him into doing things, to try to change him by talking, by using your words. God says don't do that. Matter of fact, in other places in the Bible, God calls that a nagging woman, all right? And it says a nagging woman is like dripping water. You ever been around dripping water? Drip, 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 nag, nag, nag. You think, good night, that's driving me crazy, you know. Don't be like that. Matter of fact, another place it said better to live in the desert than in a house with a nagging woman. See, you're going to win him over without a word. You say, well, how do I win him over without a word? Well, it says this. The next thing it says, you'll win him over without a word, and by being in submission to him. Now, submission's a misunderstood word. I submit every day of my life. I submit to your pastor. I come here. I speak when he says speak. I stop when he says stop. Okay, I submit to him. If you are a good submitter, you're going to be very successful in life because that's the way life works. All right, by giving up what you think ought to have and submitting to what God's going to provide for you, because you're not trusting to other people. Remember, you're trusting God. So, matter of fact, one definition of submission for women is you duck so God can knock your husband's head off. You know, that kind of puts it in perspective. But let me tell you how to stay normal, okay? That's what I do is go around the country trying to keep Christians normal. It's a hard job. Let me tell you how to stay normal. The number one thing I can give you to stay normal, it's this. Every time you read a scripture in the Bible, every text in the Bible, you interpret it in terms of Jesus, all right? It's his story. It's all about him. Don't get caught up on these narrow verses or whatever, take them out of context and then come up with these crazy ideas. It's all about Jesus. Every text is about Jesus. Interpret that in terms of Jesus. This text here, what do? That word submission, you can get blown out of the water. We have weird Christians around here whose husbands say, well, that means I tell you what to do and I sit in a lazy boy and I'm the leader. It's not talking about secular leadership. It's talking about spiritual leadership. Okay? You can go in the ditch unless you apply it to Jesus. Jesus was the ultimate example of submission. Was he equal to God? Yes. Was he just as good as God? Yes. Has nothing to do with equality. He voluntarily chose to put himself in a position so a great work could be done. But specifically, what did Jesus do? Well, here's what he did. He went around telling everybody how good God was. That's what he did. He would say it this way. You think God's like this, but he's really like this. And then he'd tell those stories. You think God's like this, God is so good, even if he had a son live with pigs, which is the worst thing a Jewish boy could do, even if he had a son live with the pigs, God is so good that if that son came home he would not kill him. He would kiss him, and he would throw a party. That's how good God is. God is so good, even if he had 99 sheep and just one was lost, God is so good, he'd go looking for that one lost sheep. Now, why would he say it that way? And remember, Jesus is a visible representation of the invisible God. That's what God's really like. Why would he say it that way? You think he's like this? He's really like this. Because in that day, the only thing they had was the Old Testament. All right? That's their scripture. That was it. How many of you have read the Old Testament? Anybody read the Old Testament? It's a little scary, isn't it? I mean, if you are an ite, you are in serious trouble. If you're a Midianite or an Ammonite or Mosquitobite or Gazuntite or Samsonite, I wish you got the termites while he was at it, don't you? You're in serious trouble if you're an ite. That's all they had. So the people in the Old Testament, they had this image of God. Matter of fact, the word fear is all through the Old Testament. See, the word Father is rarely used, and when it is used, it's impersonal. It's the Father of many nations. But in the New Testament, it becomes personal. The invisible becomes visible. And Father is now used all the time. This time, even sometimes the Aramaic word that means Abba, Daddy. This impersonal Father, because of Jesus Christ, has become your daddy. Become your daddy. He's become the perfect Father that you always wanted, or the Father you always wanted to be. So you have to understand that's, and then, of course, in the New Testament, what's the word that's there all the time? Fear not. Fear not. See? And so many Christians, we don't make that jump from the Old Testament to the New Testament and realize how good God really is. Matter of fact, I can tell you about your mental health if I know what you think about God, and I also know what you think God thinks about you, you see. Because of me, because in my life, because of Jesus Christ, I have his righteousness. I don't have to be right in situations. Why? Because I got his righteousness. If you want to be right in an argument, in a situation, that means you can get your righteousness. You know what the Bible says about your righteousness? It's as filthy rags. That's what your righteousness is. So it takes all the pressure when you know this is what Jesus did. Doing children's church, I have lots of kids' stories. I don't have time to tell all of them. One kid, his mother was reading to him his story in the Old Testament, and it just scared the liver out of him. I mean, he was scared to death. And he said, why would God do that? Why would he wipe out? And so mother just panics, and she goes into the whole thing. I mean, Old Testament, New Testament, Old Covenant, New Covenant, it's like a sermon, Finally, she says, now do you understand? He says, I think so. The Old Testament was before God became a Christian. Not exactly. Here's how I explain it, by the way, and it drives theologians crazy, but if you know any theologians, it's a short trip. Here's how I explain it. Hector of Troy was a great warrior. He got the call to go to battle. So he put on his helmet and his armor, and he realized he forgot to kiss his little boy goodbye. So he stomped up the stairs to kiss his little boy goodbye. And the little boy is hearing this stomping coming up, and when his daddy opened the door, he's petrified. He's turning white. He's trying to get away. And the father realized, he doesn't know who I am. He's scared to death. So he takes off his helmet, and he says, I'm your daddy. I love you. Come to me, son. And of course, the little boy crawls up into his arms. That's what I believe the Old Testament is. God put his armor on, stomped around, scared the liver out of a bunch of people. But in the New Testament, he took his helmet off, and he said, I'm your daddy, and I love you. Come unto me. Remember when Jesus said, come unto me, all you that labor and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon me. Learn of me, for I'm gentle and lowly at heart. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. I'd like to preach a sermon called, Who Stole the Easy Yoke? I mean, because, man, we have made it so religious and added so much stuff to it. See, just take Jesus' righteousness and enjoy that standing that you have with God. You say, well, okay, that's a good theology lesson. What does that have to do with my husband? Well, here it is. One specific thing. You do this, pretty much everything else will fall into place. You go around, just like Jesus went around telling people how good God was, you go around telling everybody how wonderful your husband is, how fantastic he is. See, Men are just 10-year-old boys grown up. That's all they are. That's all they are. They want to impress women. It starts with their mother. Watch little boys and their mother. They're always saying, feel my muscles, aren't I wonderful, aren't I fantastic? Watch me hit this ball. Watch me do this. Watch me do this. And watch me do that. And watch sure I can do this. And she said, oh, you're so strong. You're so handsome. You were the best in the school play. I mean, how you stood there and you were that tree and you never moved the whole time. I mean, you were so good. And he said, oh, yes, I was a good tree when I was. He thrives on that, you see. That's what men thrive on. That's why men grill. We don't want to cook. We want to fight fire for our family. So people clap for us. Look at Daddy out there. What a man, what a man. Feel my muscles, aren't I wonderful? But then something starts to change. He's starting to get in high school. He said, Mother, I made the team. And she says, yeah, but your room's a wreck. You need to go clean that room. Yeah, but Mom, I did this. Yeah, but you made a D in algebra. You're never going to get it caught. Yeah, but I did. Yeah, but you didn't do that. You do that. And he starts looking for another woman. Come here. Feel my muscles. Aren't I wonderful? Aren't I fantastic? And what does she say? Oh, yes, you are. You're so cute. You're so smart. I think you're the smartest in the class. I think you're the best on the team. I don't know why the coach doesn't play you. And he thrives on that. So he says, Mama, I'm going with her. Why? Because she meets his basic need for admiration, for significance. He's just a 10-year-old boy grown up. He thrives on that. You say, well, wait a minute. Let me see if I get this. You mean we came down here tonight, you're a PhD in psychology, and you say, here's the key. Go around telling everybody how wonderful and fantastic my husband is? Yep, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. You say, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You don't know my husband. My husband, he not fantastic. Matter of fact, he's a jerk. Really? So you look the whole world over to find a jerk to make you miserable for the rest of your life? Is that how it happened? Probably not. Since I'm a psychologist, let's role play a little bit. Let's just say, let's call his name Bill, okay? Because I grew up in the 60s. Remember the 60s? Met him on a Monday and my heart stood still. To do run, 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 to do run, run. I didn't know that his name was Bill. Let's call him Bill, okay? You probably came home and said, I'm getting married. And your parents said, no, you're not getting married. Yeah, you're not getting married. No, you're not old. Yeah, I am. I'm getting, no, you're not getting me. Yes, I am. I'm getting, well, you're not going to marry Bill, are you? Oh, yeah, I'm going to marry Bill. No, you can't marry Bill. You don't want to marry Bill. And then what did you say? You said, you don't know Bill like I know Bill. And you started telling them all the wonderful things about Bill. Well, what happened to old Bill? I can tell you. He quit hearing wonderful things. Because men will break their neck in order to get attention from a woman, especially an attractive woman. That's another need. I tell you, you put an attractive woman back there with a box, and every man that goes by, let her say, can you lift this box? No, I don't think you can. Every man here, put that box up. I mean, we won't be able to get out of bed the next day, but we put that box up. Feel my muscles, aren't I wonderful, aren't I fantastic? It's just the way we are, you see. Meets that basic need, you see. Most men end up staying at work instead of going home because at work they're admired and they have significance. And people tell them, oh man, you're so smart. Man, you made such a great decision. And because, see, we know that they're getting paid for that, but we need it so much that we get addicted to it and we want to stay there. And we go home, we hear, well, I've worked with guys who made multi-million-dollar decisions at work and they couldn't decide where to eat dinner at home. Why? Because at work, it was great idea. And at home, it was, we always eat there. You know. So let me just help you right here, ladies. Because most of the decisions you get mad at anyway don't amount to anything. So anytime your husband comes up with something, and it's not going to matter, these decisions. It's like where to eat. You don't even remember where you ate last Tuesday night, that you thought about it, but you don't remember now where it was. So anytime he comes up with an idea, just look at him and bat those eyes and say, great idea, great idea. I've been wanting to go there. Or, man, yeah, I love that place. And he'll say, feel my muscles, are not wonderful, are not fantastic. But the key is, he will be able to leave work as quick as he can because he'll want to come home, because it meets his basic need as a man. Now, God knew I'd be telling you this, and you would be thinking, you got to be kidding. I mean, who's going to change this guy? Who's going to make him do what he's supposed to do? So it gives you an illustration of Abraham and Sarah in the Bible. And it says they go on a trip. And Abraham, and you're talking about a man having a stupid idea. Abraham had a stupid idea. He said, look, she's a good-looking lady, and they're going to want to marry you, and let's tell them you're my sister, and they can marry you if they want to. I mean, that's not a great idea. I mean, you would think, I can't believe this. What am I going to do? You'd probably say, pull this chariot over, buddy. We're getting a divorce. We're not doing this. You know what the Bible says? She trusted in God. She confided in God. I wish I could have heard the prayer, don't you? Dear God, you won't believe what this ding-dong's doing this time. I mean, you thought moving to Spartanburg was stupid. You won't believe what this, And the Bible says God came through and protected her. But if you know your Bible, they went on another trip, and Abraham did exactly the same thing. Let me help you. Let me help all the women here. Men, you can daydream, do whatever you want to. Let me help all the women. All the women, look me in the eyes. All the women. I'm going to tell you something that will help you. Don't ever forget this. You looking at me? Don't ever forget this. Men are incredibly stupid. Don't ever forget that. Why? Because they didn't grow up as a woman. They grew up as a man. King of the hill, capture the flag, put a helmet on, seriously into the other guy. So they're going to do the same dumb things over and over and over again. So, matter of fact, I hate to tell you this, it's a little discouraging. Abraham's son goes on a trip. The pastor can tell you this, it's in the Bible. His son goes on a trip, and he does exactly the same thing. That is, not only are men incredibly stupid, we pass it down to our sons so they can act just as stupid with their wives as we acted with their mother. Matter of fact, they say that girls marry guys like their fathers, and that's why mothers cry at weddings. Because they're thinking, oh, they got to go through what I went through. Oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Now, because of the way they are, and because they don't know anything about relationships, ladies, you have to help men in the area of relationships. That's one reason God created marriage. So you have to help them understand what to do and what to say. You have to be very specific with a man. You cannot drop hints. You can't say, I like to travel. He'll buy you a map. He doesn't know what you're talking about. You say, I like flowers. He'll buy you seeds. You have to be very specific. You tell him, if you want to get me something for an anniversary, this is the flower I like. Get your iPhone and take a picture of it, okay? He will love that. He doesn't know what, he wants to do good. He just doesn't know how, So, whatever, this is the place I'd like to go. When we got a couple days, I'd really always wanted to go there. Romance to a man means tell me exactly what to do. Okay, he doesn't know what to do. So, but the basic need is admiration. Go around telling everybody how wonderful he is. Okay, now, then it talks about men dwelling with their wives with understanding. You cannot love anybody, whether we're talking about relationships or in the family or at business or whatever. The only way to love people or to motivate people, to encourage people, is find out what motivates and encourages them. Everybody is loved in a different way. And to get specific about how to love them, it's kind of like a combination lock, and you have to know what the numbers are in order for them to feel loved. And your Adam suit wants to think, I'm going to love this person the way I want to be loved. See? Some of you guys take your kids with you to go do what you want to do. Well, that's loving you and taking your kids along, okay? That's not loving your kids. See? God made your kids with a particular bent. Train up a child in the way he should go. That's the way God made him, a different way. You may be an athlete, and God gave you, somebody that plays the trumpet. Well, then you go to their trumpet. You do that with them. Why? Because that's loving them. That's the way God made them. See, the only way you know God loves you, the only way you know is this, that God left his world and entered your world. The only way people know that you love them is if you're willing to leave your world and enter their world. So I'm going to teach you what it's like when you think you're loving somebody, and matter of fact, you're not loving them at all, and you may be causing them pain, right? So a little illustration we've done with AT&T. We've done it with all kinds of businesses and corporations. We've done it with all the churches, probably a couple hundred churches. I'm going to teach you what it's like to be in a world different than the world you're in, so you will understand when you think you're loving somebody, you may be causing them pain. All right? So we're going to take children. Because, well, everybody can relate to kids, I think. Let me ask you, how many of you ever been a kid or know a kid? That's all of us. Okay, we're good. Kids up to, how many took Psych 101? Anybody take Psych 101? Excuse me. You probably heard about a guy named Piaget. He gave the stages that children go through. Sensory motor, concrete operational. And the concrete operational stage is when the kids, they've grown some, and you think they're little adults, but they're not. Why? Because their brain hasn't matured, and they cannot think abstractly. They can only think concretely. That's why kids do weird stuff, by the way. I saw a kid with a burnt lip. I said, how'd you burn your lip, kid? He said, I was licking my nightlight. I said, why would you do that? He said, I never licked one before. That makes perfectly good sense to a kid. See, he can't think about licking it. He has to go lick it. All right? So I'm going to teach you what it's like to be in a world different than the world you're in. So if you're physically able, I want you to take your hands and raise them as high as you can. I want you to keep them up as long as you can. I want to cause as much pain as I can. Listen to a kid say, I pledge allegiance to the flag. You think he says that? No. They're all abstract words. He doesn't have a clue what they mean. So he makes up words. He'll say something like, I lead the pigeons to the flag, or something like that. You think he says one nation indivisible? He'll say a naked individual every time. Listen to him at church. Church is all abstract. See, kids think God's name is Howard. Howard be thy name. Maybe his name is Art, who art in heaven. They pray things like, give us this day our jelly bread. They say the books of the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Olivia, Newton, John, Genesis, Exodus, Lexus. I mean, it's confusing to them. One kid got it all confused, thought Round John Virgin was the fattest of the 12 opossums. One kid had a teacher named Mrs. Murphy, always giving him homework, making his life miserable. So he translated that psalm, surely goodness, Mrs. Murphy will follow me all the days of my life. Stand beside a kid at church. They don't even sing the songs we sing. I was standing by a kid, we were singing, soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. He was singing, soon and very soon, we are going to Burger King. Brother and sister fighting over the last piece of chocolate cake. Dad said, son, what would Jesus do? He said he'd make more chocolate cake. That's what he would do. Anybody feeling any pain? Gonna feel good. Put your hands down. See, now you know what it's like for a 3-year-old to go to the mall with their parents. One takes one arm, the other takes one arm. And you walk around like this for hours. I mean, you couldn't do it 5 minutes. Kids do this for hours. And you tell the kid, we love you. We took you out of preschool. It's your birthday. Aren't you having fun? Oh, I'm dying. Never forget what you just learned. Many times, you think you're loving somebody, but you've never entered their world. And not only are you not loving them, you're causing them a lot of pain. You say, well, how do you know? How do you enter somebody's world? Well, we enter that world through communication. And by the way, men, a primary need of a woman is intimacy, which means into me you see. She wants to look into you. She wants you to tell her about things, you see. That's important for a woman to do that. So I'm going to teach the men, hopefully, how to listen. We'll see how far we get. Listen. L stands for lean forward, look them in the eye. Okay? A woman talks as much for rapport as she does report. A woman talks as much for process as she does product. You see, a man thinks the facts are the only thing that's important. No, it's the feeling behind the facts. A woman, that's why women are so good in the business world, a woman understands nonverbal communication. And to understand that, you have to focus on that. You have to pick up on that. A man thinks, I can talk with the phone in my hand or looking at the computer or the newspaper, and he can get the facts, but he can't get the feeling behind the facts. To do that, you got to put things down, and you got to make eye contact. If you come home and your wife's in the kitchen in a position somewhat like this, and you say, what's wrong, honey? And she says, nothing. And you say, oh, good, I'm going to go play golf then. You will soon see Jesus. Because non-verbally, she's telling you everything is wrong, and if you love me enough, you would ask me about it, you see. So you got to lean forward, put everything down, look them in the eye. I stands for inquire. That's active listening. You say something like, well, then what did they say? Or what happened then, to let them know you're following the conversation. Now I realize some of you are kind of need lots of help. So I'm going to give you these 2 steps, and I think it would even be progress for some of you if you can just do these 2 steps. When your wife starts to talk to you, put everything down, lean forward, look her in the eye, and when she pauses, just say, tell me more. I mean, surely you can do that. I mean, that's all you have to do, guys. Put it, lean, say, tell me more. Now, I have to caution the women here because, and I hate to tell you this, it's a little discouraging, but I have to tell you the truth. When your husband does that, when he puts things down and leans forward and looks you in the eye and says, tell me more, he really doesn't want to know anymore. He's a guy, okay? He's a guy. And so when he does that, that means he loves you and he loves Jesus, and I told him to, okay? So when he leans forward, looks you in the eye, and says, tell me more, keep it short, okay? You know, he doesn't want the newspaper, he wants the headline, okay? You know, he doesn't want a book, he wants a pamphlet, you see? It's struggle for him. It's hard for him. You know, one guy said, does it bother you that your wife has the last word? He said, no, I'm just excited when she gets to it. And so keep it short. S stands for stop interrupting. You see, a man thinks that we can interrupt and give an answer and then go back to the game or go back to the computer, because men, we're taught to fix it. So we want to jump in and fix it so we can jump back to what we do. But remember, a woman is not interested in the product as much as she is the process itself. You see, she wants something from you that's not an answer. When we were married, you know, we had these 3 little kids, and I would come home from work, and Penny would say, Brianna did this, Casey did this, Angela did this. So I'm thinking, man, she wants my answers, you know, because I'm a PhD, you know. I'd say, Brianna did this, won't you do this, Casey do this, won't you try that, Angela do that. She'd say, why don't you shut up? And she's walking off, and I'm saying, hey, lady, they pay good money for this at the practice. I'm giving you it for free. But see, I realized she didn't want my answers. There's no answers for preschool kids. I mean, they're flipping Alka-Seltzer in the water to watch it fizz. There's no answer for kids, you know. She just wanted my assurance that being home with 3 preschool kids all day long was the most important job in the world. See, she didn't want my mouth. She wanted my shoulder, you see. She wanted me to understand what she was doing was important. So you don't want to give her answers. You want to give her assurance. That's what she's looking for. So lean forward, inquire, stop interrupting. T, probably crucial here. Tell them what they said and how they look. Remember, because nonverbal is important. And then ask if you're correct. I used to teach a class, when I was here, I taught a class at Gardner-Webb University, which is up the road, in communications. And I'd always have one sentence on this chapter that says, blank is the lowest form of knowledge. And I'd want those students to write in, assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. Had a football player in my class put, my brain is the lowest form of knowledge. And I gave him credit. See, we make these assumptions. We assume that you want to be loved the way I want to be loved. It's not what you don't know many times that affects relationships. It's what you think you know that isn't so. And so you have to ask if you're right. You can't make those assumptions. If you come home from work and you say, why don't we go get a steak? And your wife kind of yawns and says, that's a good idea. But she doesn't say anything else. Most men won't say anything out loud, but they'll talk to themselves. They'd say, she don't want to go. She never wants to go. She wants to eat quiche or something. I want a steak every now and then. And he just builds it up inside. And then maybe 15 minutes later, she may say, I thought we were going to eat. Well, we were, but she didn't want to go. You never went. And they end up fighting about it. Well, he could come home and say, let's get a steak tonight. And she yawns and says, yeah, that's a good idea. He could say, well, honey, you said you wanted to go, but you yawned and you look like you're tired. Do you really not want to go? She'd say, oh, yeah, I am tired. It's been a long day, but man, protein's exactly what I need. That's a great idea. And then everybody's happy eating instead of fighting. Why? Because you talk it out instead of have it out, you see. Here's the problem with most relationships. You wait too late to communicate. And when you wait too late to communicate, the emotions get involved. See, there's a part of the brain called the amygdala. And what it does is when it gets activated, it will shoot blood out to the muscles. So you can do unbelievable things. You've heard of people lifting cars or jumping over fences, because the blood went to those muscles. It's called the flight or fight mechanism. But because your muscles are activated, because the blood is going to your muscles, it's not going to the brain, all right? So if you wait to communicate too late, the emotions get involved. And let me give you some visuals so you can understand that. Let's just say it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, and a guy goes into the garage, and he sees his golf clubs. He said, I haven't played golf all year. Spring's coming. I know this Saturday is going to be a perfect day. I'm going to call some of my guys, and 10 o'clock, man, I'm going to play golf. A few minutes later, his wife goes into the garage and says, man, this is a mess. Over the winter, man, it's gotten to be a mess. We need to clean this thing up. I know this Saturday is going to be a great day. Maybe about 10 o'clock, get the whole family together, and we'll clean out this garage. Now, let me give you a word. The word is psychological, but we're going to break it up into two parts. Psycho and logical, okay? Now, if they, on Tuesday, would have talked about what's going to happen on Saturday, it would have been logical, right? If they wait until Tuesday at 10 o'clock when he's getting out his golf clubs, just as she's going in the garage to start the cleaning process, it's going to be psycho. You see, if you wait too late to communicate. If you're going on vacation, remember God puts opposites together. And some people, and one reason he does that is he likes to laugh. I'm sure of that, One day you're going to get to heaven, you're going to find out one of God's names is Jehovah Ha-Ha. I promise you. And one reason is because he gets the last laugh. And so I'm sure God puts couples together and brings the angels around and said, watch this. This is going to be really good. But people get married. Some people on vacation, their idea of a vacation is to do nothing. I mean, that's what vacations are. You do nothing. But they marry somebody whose idea of a vacation is you plan everything to do that you didn't have time to do because you had a job, okay? So if those people talk about what are we going to do on vacation, maybe a month before vacation, it's going to be logical. If you wait till you get to the vacation itself, it's going to be psycho. You see, it's all waiting too late to communicate. If you don't have it out, if you don't talk it out logically, you're going to have it out with psycho. I promise you. Anybody know psycho? You know psycho. So lean forward, inquire, stop interrupting. Tell them what they said. For example, let's just say you come home from work and your wife says this. You bought your dream house. Okay, you've been in your dream house about 4 months. You've got your dream house. You come home from work and your wife says this. This pantry sure is inconvenient. Now, most guys, they wouldn't say anything to her, but on the inside, they would start talking to themselves. The kitchen's inconvenient. What does she mean the kitchen's inconvenient? It's a $300,000 inconvenient kitchen, and now she wants me to get another house, means I have to pay another real estate person, sell that, buy this, probably cost me another $60,000 because the kitchen's inconvenient. Or he could have said, honey, you said this kitchen's inconvenient. Does that mean you don't like this house anymore? Oh, no, I love this house. This is our dream house. Remember that pantry? Remember in the other house? Remember it had 4 shelves right over here? If we could just put 4 shelves right here, this would be a perfect kitchen. You see how 4 shelves cost $100? You see how you just save $59,900? Why? Because you talked it out instead of have it out. I had this couple that came to see me in Dallas. He was in commercial real estate, and at the time, he was making money hand over fist. And there's a time in Dallas where it's like Monopoly. Everybody's just going around, collecting money, going around gold, collecting money. At the end, it became like Monopoly too, because everybody got the go-to-jail card. But at that point in time, they were just making lots of money. They were making lots of money. He had 3 or 4 kids, small kids. I can't remember how many exactly. But he worked in commercial real estate, so he wore, and this is like in the 80s, he wore Italian suits with real people's names in them, like $4,000 and $5,000 suits, okay? I saw Michael's coat today. It had dry clean only in it. But actually, it did have a name, J.C. Penney, but that's not the name we're talking about, all right? So he wore these expensive suits. Well, mother was home with these kids all day, so she was just tired, wanting some relief. So she would always announce when the car would go by, Daddy's home, and the kids would run to Daddy. And you know what preschool kids carry around. I won't go into it. It's kind of gross, but they'd jump on him and get stuff on this expensive coat, and he'd throw that one off, and the other would jump on him. He'd throw that one off, and then he'd get mad, and they'd end up in a fight. Okay. So they're coming to see the psychologist. And back when I did marriage counseling, I would split couples up. See the wife first, then the husband, because I've been in lots of fights, so I know how to do that. So I see the wife first, and here's what I say. What are your expectations when your husband comes home from work? You've got to get out your expectations. People do not know. I've had bosses, and the people who work for them don't know what they expect of them. You see, you've got to verbalize those expectations. I said, what are your expectations when your husband comes home from work? She said, well, I just need help with these kids. These kids are driving me crazy. If you'd just help me a little bit. I said, have you ever asked for his help? She said, well, after we talk about it, we just get in a fight. And I said, okay, so you need help with these kids. I said, you go out and bring your husband in. So I turned to the husband. I said, what are your expectations when you come home from work? He said, well, I know my wife needs help with these kids. And then he explained about his suits and how expensive they were. He said, if she would just give me 15 minutes so I could go in the back and she wouldn't announce I'm here, and I could get off my work clothes and get on something like a rubber suit that I could hose down. He said, I would love to help her with these kids. I said, have you ever told her that? He said, not really. I said, I'm going to bring her back in. I want you to lean forward, look her in the eye, and tell her exactly what you just told me. She came in, he leaned forward, he went through the whole thing. I know you need help with these kids. If you'll just give me 15 minutes so I can go in the back and put on a rubber suit. He did the whole thing. She smiled back at him and said, if I know you're going to help me with these kids, I'll give you 30 minutes. If I know I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I'll give you 30 minutes. We solved their big problem in 35 minutes. Now, I charge them for the full hour. But, I mean, if you're good, get the money, right? You know. Why? Because they decided to talk it out instead of have it out, all right? So, lean forward, inquire, stop interrupting, tell them what they said, and ask them if you're correct. E stands for a couple of things. Because we don't have time to go into a lot of the seminar, E stands for encouragement. The reason people flocked to be around Jesus was because he was the greatest encourager who ever lived. Even the worst sinners wanted to be around Jesus. Why? Because he was such an encourager. Even a lady caught in the very act of adultery, Jesus said, neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more. If you want to have great relationships, learn how to encourage people. The reason is most people are discouraged. Well, let me ask you, how many of you get too much encouragement? You're sick of it. You get so much of it. People clapping for you all the time, telling you how wonderful you are, how fantastic you are. Your kids carry around pictures of you in their wallet. These are my kids. My parents. I love this outfit my mother has on. I love my parents. Oh, you mean your kids don't carry around pictures of you in their wallet? No, they don't. Matter of fact, if you could be honest tonight, you're probably a little discouraged. Encouragement, it's in all of us. You ever taken a kid, put him on the carousel and tried to go get a Diet Coke or something, and you wave, and you said, no, they're coming around again, and you wave again. You said, no, I got to go get it. Said, no, they're coming around again. No, you wave every time they come around. Why? Because we all need it. We all need to be an encourager. Learn to encourage people like Jesus did. So how do you do that? Remember, it's a matter of focus. It's what you choose to focus on. There's something wrong with everything. Something wrong with everybody. And if you're not careful, that's what you focus on. But no, you're going to focus not on their faults, but on the faithfulness of God. Not on their performance, but on the principles. That will be an encouragement to them. Learn to be an encourager. And then E stands for express comfort. If you're going to be in a relationship for a long period of time, bad things are going to happen. And you need to learn how to comfort each other. Penny and I have little places all around the country where we just go to get away. We've done that we've gone to the same place for years. And just being there is a comfort. Why? Because we've been here lots of times and we've had tough times, but we've gotten through them. You need those kind of places. You need to, guys especially, your tendency is that you don't want to be there. Matter of fact, they've done some research that says when a woman needs to be comforted, the best thing is for a man to either hug her or just hold her hand and be there. Just be there. Some of you staff guys know you've been to somebody, they had a tragedy, and you were there and you didn't know what to say. You didn't say anything. And then a couple of weeks later, you get a card and say, you were such a comfort. You say, what? I didn't do anything. You were there. The tendency is not to want to be there, you see, in the hard times. Comfort. And do practical things to comfort. You know what you don't like to do. And so when somebody needs comfort, you do that things they don't like to do. My wife does not like to unload the dishwasher. If I can do that for her, that's a practical thing that helps her. When we lost our grandson, a lady came to our house and said, I will come to your house for 2 weeks. I will answer the phone and take messages from anybody that calls. And I will write down who called and their address and phone number. I'll stay at your house from 9 to 5. I'll bring my own lunch. She did that. She said, I know you don't want to tell that story over and over again. She did that for 2 weeks. That was such a comfort, you see. Learn to comfort each other. It's very important. The longer you live, the more bad things are going to happen, I promise you. And then N stands for never look at your watch while your wife is talking. And I say that just to demonstrate the fact that men get nervous when women talk. And so we fidget if we're not careful. We'll get the keys or we'll bang on stuff, and But women understand that he doesn't mean to do that. That's just the way God made him. And so he gets nervous when you want to talk to him about communication. So see how men communicate. Men communicate with activities. You see, I'm a golfer, and matter of fact, Michael Catt and I, who was on staff here for years, we formed friendship here at Pisgah, and we've been best friends ever since. And We were just at his house in Gatlinburg. We played golf, twice before we came down here. And we've literally played golf all over this country. That's how guys talk. Guys fidget, talk, fidget, fidget, talk, fidget, talk, fidget. You see, the golf swing only lasts 2 seconds. Even if you hit it 100 times, you only played golf 200 seconds. You were out there 4 hours. What did you do? That's how men talk. We fidget, talk, fidget, talk, fidget, talk. Women can talk. Makes us nervous. So find some kind of legitimate fidget, okay? I'll give you one, because I want to make this practical. I've always been practical. Even when I was in private practice, I was practical. One of my first patients couldn't remember anything. I said, when did you problem start? He said, I can't remember. I said, how long have you had it? He said, I can't remember. I said, what have you done about it? He said, I can't remember. Doc, I can't remember anything. What do I do? I said, here's what you do. You pay me in advance. That's what you do. So, always been very practical, So let me give you something very practical. Learn to take walks together. That will relax the man because he's doing an activity. It's a legitimate fidget. Take walks together. You will have a better chance of agreeing with each other when you're walking because the mind and the body are connected. When you're walking with somebody in the same direction, you'll have a better chance of agreeing. Matter of fact, if you ever watch somebody, if they start to get in conflict or disagree, they can't walk together. They'll stop and turn to each other every time. It's very difficult because the mind and the body are connected. So learn to take walks together. It will help relax the man. He'll be able to talk to you. Things will come out that otherwise never would come out. Listening is the only way to enter that person's world, to find out how to motivate them, find out how to encourage them. And you guys, you have to work at intimacy, which means what? Into me you see. That means you think about what your wife wants from this relationship, and then you have to work at doing that. For example, you come home from work. She wants to know what happened at work. Think of something that happened. I used to come home from work and Penny say, what happened at work? And I'd say, nothing. She'd say, they pay you pretty good for nothing, boy, They want to know what happens in your life, and they want to know the details of what happens, okay? And men, that doesn't work with us. We have to that's a hard thing to do. When I was at First Baptist Dallas, I was just about to leave one day, and my secretary knows I need to tell Penny something that happened at work. And I told her that when Laura has her baby, she worked in the music area. When she has her baby, you tell me so I can tell Penny something happened at work. So I was just about to leave one day, and she said, guess what? Laura had a baby. Don't forget to tell Penny. I was pretty excited, man. I got home and said, honey, guess what? Laura had her baby at work. Isn't that great? She said, that's great. What'd she have? Well, she had a baby, honey. I mean, what else? So I go back the next day. What'd she have? She had a boy. So I was pretty excited again. Guess what, honey? I checked for you. She had a boy. She said, that's great. What'd they name him? Well, they named him a boy name, honey. I don't know what they named him. So I come, I check again. I come back the next day. Honey, guess what? I'm going to call him Billy. Isn't that great? She said, that's great. How much did little Billy weigh? I said, he's a fat baby, honey. He's a fat baby. But that's how women think, you see. They want to know the details. That's what's intimacy to them that come up. Let us become one together. And men, it doesn't come natural for us. You have to work at it. How many remember when phones had a cord? Anybody remember that? How many remember when rates were low on the weekends? Remember that? My dad used to call, or my mom would call, basically every Saturday morning when rates were low. And we would talk for about 20 minutes, and Penny would say, what did your parents say? And I'd say, well, they said they're coming in April. Well, you talked 20 minutes. Sure, they said something else. Well, they said something else. They said they're coming in April. Oh, I've already told you that. Really, they didn't say anything else. She said, you talked 20 minutes. I said, well, it was just insignificant, small talk. And she'd give me that disgusted look, And so invariably then, a couple of days later, somebody would say something, remind me of something my dad had said. I said, oh, yeah, last week my dad, and I go this long story. She'd grab me by the arm and say, you tell the whole world everything. You tell me nothing, nothing, nothing. So I thought, I'm going to fix this. Next time they call, I'm going to get a notepad out and write down everything they say. So when she says, what'd they say? I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm thinking, this is good, you know. Parents call, Penny's gone. I get out a notepad, write down everything. Dog's in a tomato patch, probably no tomatoes this year. Air conditioning bill, $230. Probably have to cut off the air conditioner. Nobody can pay $230 for air conditioning. And then every relative and every organ. I call it the organ recital, you know. I mean, specific details. Aunt Ethel's bowels, you know. We're praying for Lou's normal regularity, you know. I mean, just going through the whole, I'm like, good night, you know. But I'm writing it down, you know. I'm writing it down, 3 pages. They say goodbye, I say goodbye. I just take it, stick it underneath the chair and just wait, you know, because I think this is good. I'm going to get her good. So I wait, you know. Penny comes home. I just kind of wait. Got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You understand that? That's not in Proverbs, by the way. That great theologian Kenny Rogers said that. He'd been married 5 times. He didn't know when to hold them or fold them. But anyway. So Penny finally said, did your parents call? Well, they did. Well, what'd they say? I'll tell you everything they said. You want to know everything? I want to know anything. Well, lady, I'm going to tell you everything. I get out that. I start going through the whole thing. I mean, bowels, kidneys, the whole thing. And I'm thinking, smirking, I got her good. You know, they say goodbye, I say goodbye. She's smiling, coming toward me. Could you do that every time they call? Thinking, what? Ladies are weird, aren't they? They want to know that stuff. They want to know all about you. And men, that's very hard for us to do. It's like taking that helmet off. Like God took his helmet off for you, he wants you to take your helmet off for your wife. Be that person. I got to wrap this up. How does it all come together? When you decide that your purpose in life is to bless other people, you then become a partner with God himself. I told you about Penny having a different background, a cultured background. She actually took ballet when she was growing up. And I read this article out of the world of ballet, and it's a great illustration. The New York City Ballet, somebody gave them $1 gazillion to get Baryshnikov, the master, to come and dance at the New York City Ballet. So evidently for $1 gazillion, you can get Baryshnikov. He said, I'll come, I'll dance. But he said this, I'm not going to dance an individual recital. I'm going to pick somebody from the New York City Ballet, somebody local, and I'm going to dance with them for 2 weeks, and then we'll give a recital together. He picked a lady named Gelby Kirkland, and the guy writing the article says, I thought it was the worst choice he could have made. I've been watching this lady for years. She maybe be average. I would say maybe even below average. She has no dance moves. She has no personality. She definitely doesn't have any charisma. I thought, what a bad choice. But he said it was my job. So 2 weeks later, I was on the front row, and the curtain opened, and Baryshnikov and Gelby Kirkland came out. And I thought, well, they switched. That's not her. It didn't look like her. I looked at the program. It was her. I looked back. It was her, but it didn't look like her. She looked like a different person. And then they started to dance. He said, I was blown away. I mean, this below average dancer all of a sudden had unbelievable dance moves. She had personality. She even had what we'd call charisma. But the last sentence is what got my attention. He said it like this, I was blown away by the transformation that occurred when she was able to partner with the master. My friend, that's Christianity. When you decide to bless people, you become in partnership with God himself, and you will be blown away by the transformation that occurs. You see, there's just 2 powers in this world. There's the power of God the Father and his Son, Jesus Christ. And they've chosen to change the world by blessing the world. Even at Calvary, when they could have blasted the world, they chose to bless the world. There's another power, the evil one, Satan, the liar, the accuser. And at every opportunity, he will blast you. One chooses to bless, and one power chooses to blast. I told you this morning I like country music. There's a country music song out there. It's not a good song. Don't listen to it. But it's got a great title. You know what the title is? Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? You see, if I could watch you work or school or church, primarily at home, and see whether you bless or whether you blast, I would know who's your daddy. Because our Father has chosen to change the world by blessing the world. And He's chosen to bless the world through us. And when you decide to do that, you are partnering with God Himself. And you will love your life. And you will see good days. And God's ears will be open to your prayers.